It's Property Speaking, and Philip Skuman is in the building. We're asking, what is a bond clause and what exactly does it mean? And what happens if a buyer can't get a mortgage bond as specified in the sale agreement but still wants to continue with the sale on a cash basis? What are the risks? What's going on there? Broker and owner of REMAX, Philip Skuman, is here to talk to us. Morning, Philip. Are you good?
Fine, thanks yourself.
Great. Bond clause. What's that?
Okay, so obviously when you are looking to purchase a property, you're gonna purchase it either cash or using a bond, i.e. a home loan. And what can happen sometimes is that obviously it, depending on your market, is that if you want to use a bond, your sale agreement or the offer that you are making might look less attractive to a seller as compared to a cash transaction. Although my personal opinion is more bank loan transactions go through as opposed to cash transactions, because clients say they pay cash but they never do, or not never, but very rarely do they actually come up with the money that they said they would. So yeah, what happens in most cases with a bond clause is that you are saying that within a specified amount of time, I want to do an application, submit all documentation to the bank, and then receive a favorable outcome, i.e. that we've been granted the loan and now here's where this comes in. Sometimes your loan might be declined, and the client might say to you, I still want to proceed with the transaction, but I'm going to pay cash. In that case, this is what it means to waive that loan clause, but it has to be communicated in writing to the seller and within 7 days before the lapsing of that bond clause. So let's say we've agreed that you need 30 days to apply for the loan. That means that by day 21 you should be able to say to the client, listen, I'm not going with the bond anymore, I'm going cash, and we want to proceed that way.
Okay, so when there is, is there a way that the bond affects the sale when it falls through, or maybe when the buyer suddenly can't afford?
Yeah, so buyers sometimes, I've seen many cases where a client couldn't afford a loan because of a Fashini's account or something that they forgot about, moved address, and they're still getting notices at the old address, and we're talking like $6,000 that might be outstanding over the space of 4 years, and now they've been blacklisted, they're not even aware. That scenario might arise, but you'll find that this client has access to funds or finance, and then they would be able to pay cash, or they would borrow from a friend or a family member or something, and then rectify the issue that they had with the bank, then take a bond on that property and pay back the client or the funder. So
is that one of the ways maybe that a buyer can afford to go ahead with the sale of the property in case the bond clause fell through or it didn't succeed, what you just mentioned now?
Yeah, so in essence, a bond clause is a suspensive condition to the agreement, meaning that the agreement starts, but it's in suspense and cannot continue until the granting of this bond. So, where was I going with this?
No, I was asking if, because you had mentioned some of the ways, borrow from a friend, do this, do that, and I was saying that, is that one of the ways, or are there other ways that you can carry on in case the sale of the property or the bond doesn't fall through?
The property's got to be paid for in some way, shape or form. Where's the money going to come from? It's either cash or bond, or portions thereof. A client might go with a 50% bond, or the bank might come back and say, this is what I want to say earlier. The bank might come back and say, cool, you've applied for 108% or 100% loan, but we don't deem you worthy to that amount of credit, so we're going to give you 70% or 60%. And that means that, and that's now that's an offer from the bank now. Now, the buyer has to go, or the agent on behalf of the buyer has to go to the seller and say, okay, the client was only granted 60% or 70%, but the balance of the money he has somewhere from a friend or a family member or whatever, and he's going to come up with that cash and continue with the transaction.
I know my question might not be relevant, but I think it's going towards that direction. COVID showed a lot of people flames, all of us included here in the studio, and we have had to adjust and make some changes in our lives as far as finances are concerned. So for people that had properties and right now they've just found someone who is a potential buyer, this potential buyer says, look, I'll give you the cash. Let's suspend the bond clause. And then you do the entire transaction. But now I want to go and downgrade. And I don't want to buy it cash where I'm downgrading to. I want to go through the bank and get a bond. But I've got that 6 grand for Shini account that is hanging over my shoulder. Does that relationship or how I carried myself in the previous bond play a role in me getting the next bond?
Yeah, well, obviously, how you conduct yourself in the financial landscape will.
Regardless of that 6,000 rand.
Well, no, the thing is, that 6 grand, you would not have been able to rack up a 6 grand for Shini's debt over time if you have been applying for loans, either a car or a house or another account. They would have picked up that you're not paying for Shini's.
Yeah.
What I was mentioning there is I've had clients where they haven't applied for credit in 6 years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they apply for credit and they feel like, I mean, we don't really have that much debt, so, and we're servicing it well, so the bank
naturally we're going to qualify. 100%.
And then you get surprised by this Fushini's account.
No.
Sorry for Shini.
As an example, yes.
So the risk is that there's literally no, in most cases, if we've applied for 100% bond, and the client gets that 100% bond, he has to proceed with the transaction. Okay. He can, after the approval, also still decide to waive. He can, let's say he wins the lotto in the middle of the transaction. He might say, listen, I don't want the bond anymore, I'm going to pay cash. That could happen.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it here for today. Thank you so much, Philip Skuman, broker and owner of REMAX.
Thanks, guys.